Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for this panel discussion on manufacturing in the post-COVID-19 era. So we have an experienced and elite group of panelists amongst us today. So you can expect to have a very interesting and productive round of discussions. And I hope you all can make it even more productive by joining in the discussions, of course, when it's your turn to speak. The panel today is being chaired by Dr. DMA Kulasurya, but before I introduce him, let me tell you a little bit about the panel format. The discussion will start with the chairperson and the panelists putting forward their thoughts on the day's topic. Following that, we will be having a Q&A session between the panelists and the moderator. While the discussions are on, I would request all the delegates to keep their mics on mute. The last part of the day will be where the audience members can put forward their questions to the panelists. To ask your question, you may write those down in the chat box or simply unmute your mic and ask your questions directly. Now, without taking too much time, I would like to quickly introduce our chairperson for today. Dr. Kulasurya is the Director General at the National Institute of Business Management. He possesses PhD in Lean Management, MSc in Management, and a BSc in Agriculture Economics. He has received his professional training on quality and productivity in Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, and India. He has more than 20 years experience in the field of consultancy and training. He has conducted several TV and radio programs on productivity improvement techniques, and he is a vice president of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Quality and Productivity. So with that brief introduction, I would like to hand over the proceedings of the day to Dr. Kulasurya.
Thank you very much. It's nice to meet eminent panelists. And we have a set of panelists, and I think that this would be a great time for all of us and to share our thoughts in the field of manufacturing and how we are going to meet this. Our topic today is manufacturing in post-COVID-19 era, and it's I think it's a big topic, and everyone talks about it. And not only in manufacturing, but all over the world and in services as well as in all the other operations as well. But I think manufacturing is very important today, and it has hampered a lot. And if you look at the global scenario, you can see this. It says that nearly 18% of the GDP of the whole world is represented by manufacturing. So it's a huge impact if it is hampered, or if it is, something happened to this industry. And you can see now in our country as well as in other countries. And it was really, badly affected by COVID-19. But we have very good, lessons as well. So that's the, whole forum today. And what are the lessons that we can learn from this, and what could be the future, and how it impacts on our day-to-day manufacturing operations. So we have, a very great eminent panelist, and Mr. Ajay Agrawal is a Assistant Vice President, Operation Nilkamal. Harris Pant, Country Head, India, Resolus Consulting, and Dr. Rakesh Sinha, CEO and Founder, Reflexive Supply Chain, and Mr. Mahendra Vani, Factory Head and CEO. When you look at the panel, you can see this is represented all aspects of it. So I think it would be a great day for all of us. And if you looked at the topic that we are planning to discuss, and it's not only on those areas, but we would like to discuss about the domestic manufacturing and how to talk about how to become a self-reliant, and which is a very debatable subject that we can discuss. Where those days, of course, we were talking about self-reliance, but now we are talking about globalization. So how it COVID-19, what are the lessons that you have learned from this, and how to set up our facilities accordingly so that we can control our value chains. And next one is, of course, reimaging supply chain. And I think our panelists will discuss about how to manage supply chain, which is the most affected during the COVID-19 in the field of manufacturing. And then we will discuss about, re-emphasizing the availability of good data as a strategic asset, and automation of how to get the real competitive edge through automations, and how to work in the manufacturing field and remote work, and what are the experiences that have gained during the COVID-19. And in the field of education, of course, in NIBM, we had the facility we call NIBM Global Campus, and it's a digital campus, of course. And we set up 1.5 years back on this facility, and we asked all our students to be online, and we completed the whole courses online. And now we are planning to have exams, because now we have returned to normalcy. We don't know whether it is a normalcy or not. Probably maybe the second, there will be a second wave. But of course, we started our working. Now all of our staffs now working at office, and the factories also, they have started their work. Now, if you look at the whole topic, I think COVID-19 pandemic is, reshaping the global business environment. And as you know, this UN anticipating the real crisis result will be, nearly maybe 10 trillion US dollars into the whole world economy. And which is real, disaster situations. And, but of course, in my case also, and if you looked at the education as well as our industries, we have learned a lot of lessons on this. So exploiting the novel opportunities created by COVID-19 is more important than formulating plans to overcome the worst conditions that have emerged due to the crisis. That is my thinking. So therefore, we need to look into what are the opportunities that we can work on. So outbreak of COVID-19 demands us to research into these areas and processes, and which are directly impacted not only to the health of people, but also to the wealth of business organization, which is very important. So now if you look at this post-COVID-19 demands industries and our organization to build the lean behavior, which is very important. We have been talking about for a long time. Of course, we started from Japan, and then of course in Western part of the world. And then we thought of this should be a great help for us to doing more with less. So how we are going to make sure that it is happening in industries. So it's a high time for us to, my personal thinking is high time for us to build up the lean behavior of people, organization as a whole country, and not only in industries, but as what is the lifestyle which we can adopt in thinking of lean management. So if you are to have a real cutting edge of a competition, it's very important that we need to question all these areas. So fast adaptation to new normalcy by innovating new value chains, and fast response to customers by being relevant. And we have gone on digital, and there are lots of areas that we have experienced better positive thinking on this. And then we want to have a really talented tech-savvy people to operate our manufacturing facilities. So those are the areas that we need to focus. But we do have our experienced panelists here today, and they will talk about few things that are important for all of us. And those are the real key learning points for us to move forward. So I'd like to introduce the first speaker today, Dr. Rakesh Singha. I think he's here, yes. And yes, Dr. Rakesh Singha worked with Godrej Consumer Products for almost 4 decades, with leading roles in manufacturing projects, supply chain, strategy, IT, and marketing. And in fact, he has covered all aspects of operations. His main area of expertise lies in designing and running agile supply chain to synchronize product supply with customer demand on a dynamic basis. These supply chains work on the principle of TOC, we call it the theory of constraint, and DDMRP, demand-driven material requirement planning, to eliminate the inefficiencies of poor forecasting. He has also led several profit improvement projects during his career, focused on reducing cost of sourcing, manufacturing, and distribution without compromising product quality of customer service level. And he will talk about how manufacturing industry to become more agile and aligned to this entire supply chain to emerging customer demand in a dynamic basis during COVID-19. Now, Dr. Rakesh, it's your time to have a few words on this and to enlightening all of us.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. This pandemic has really posed an unprecedented challenge. And the way companies have responded, it's fascinating to see that some companies have responded much better than others. Companies which have been on the agile journey are clearly outstripping the ones who were not so agile. The pandemic has forced us to relook at the fundamentals of supply chain and how the entire value chain from vendors up to the consumers should be managed, which some of us forgot during the better times. But now even the companies who are not on the agile journey have either consciously or intuitively moved to the ways of agility. I'll explain some of it very shortly. I sincerely hope that the companies who have taken these actions during the last 3-4 months, which are in line of agility, would retain this way of working even post-pandemic when we get to the new normal. Now, when we want to see how companies should respond to this and how they are responding, how the best companies are responding, I would restrict myself to top 3 points in the way planning should be done for the entire value chain, and the top 3 points on how execution should be done very shortly. I won't take more than 5 minutes. So the first point in planning, and which is the first tenet of supply chain management, is the focus on the consumer. Are we really listening to what's happening at the marketplace? Is the entire organization focused on the marketplace? If the demand for a particular product has gone up, it's very easy to see whether the organization is focused or not. Does our production plan change, and how soon does it change? Does our sourcing plan change, and how soon does it change? If the entire organization is focused on the consumer, then every major change in the way consumer demand is shaping would induce a corresponding change in the entire value chain, distribution, in manufacturing, as well as in sourcing. And you can make out the companies who are agile, who change it on an ongoing basis at a very, very frequent level, compared to the companies who still stick to the age-old thing of a 7-day frozen production plan, and only changes can be made after a week or so. So first is the focus on the consumer and what's happening at the consumer demand level. The second is the entire organization responding in a unified manner. If the demand has gone up for a product, does our production plan go up? Or if we need to produce 5 different items on the same production line, do the manufacturing people still look at their manufacturing efficiency, production efficiency measures as the prime driver, or are they serving the consumer demand? So what really takes precedence? How are people measured? And are they putting their heart and soul? This will happen only if their KPIs are aligned to the final customer service level. We still see that in many companies, the manufacturing people's prime KPI is production efficiency, which is a wrong thing to do. When the entire organization is focused on improving consumer service level, then why is it that some people, whether it's purchase, whether it's manufacturing, don't have it as their first KPI? So aligning the KPI will go a long way in terms of unifying the response of the entire team, the sourcing, manufacturing, and distribution team, to meeting the consumer demand on a dynamic basis. So that's how the planning is changing now, and it's becoming more frequent. Gone are the days of the monthly S&OP plan or IBP plan driving the manufacturing schedule through a master production schedule. It has to be more dynamic. It has to be changed more frequently to align supply to demand. Now, when it comes to execution, The first and foremost point, which was also mentioned, is the batch sizes. Are we moving the batch sizes down to give enough flexibility in manufacturing various products to ensure that the demand for all the products is met? And this batch size reduction, which is the prime tenet of lean in reducing waste, is not only for manufacturing. It goes even to the MOQs of input materials that we buy from the vendors. It goes to the distribution part, whether we are servicing small demand of the retailers, or are we focused only on the big demand. So the entire batch size reduction across all the elements of the value chain is the first point in execution. The second is flexibility, and we have seen a lot of flexibility in manufacturing during the COVID times, which wasn't there earlier. We have seen companies rejigging the production lines to manufacture, for example, hand sanitizers. We have seen liquor companies manufacturing hand sanitizers. So how do we build more flexibility in terms of the same production line, manufacturing the whole range and assortment of products? In terms of flexibility, again, batch size reduction does help. Flexibility in sourcing and flexibility in distribution go along with the flexibility in manufacturing. And the third and final point in execution is the response, fast response. How quickly are we responding to any change in demand? Are we responding within 24 hours? And by response, I mean the entire response, by sourcing, by manufacturing, and by distribution. Are we still taking 3 days or 5 days or a week to read this signal and respond accordingly? So once we focus on all these three, improve flexibility, improve the speed of response, and reduce the batch size, which the companies are intuitively doing now during the pandemic. These are the basic building blocks of an agile supply chain. And once companies see benefit during the COVID times, I hope that they will stick to it even in the new normal and continue to adopt this agile chain. So these are some of the thoughts that I wanted to share. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rakesh. Thank you very much, Dr. Rakesh, and we will summarize the whole thing at the end. But now we would like to have a few words from Mr. Mahindravani, the factory head Siemens. And I hope that you have the real experience in the factory and you have gone through the whole process. And it's high time for you to share with us, and it will definitely help our operations and operation managers in our countries, so that they would be able to practice the same thing and improve it. So now is Mr. Mahindravani. Now you can share your thoughts on this.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Kulsurya, and a warm welcome to all the viewers, the panelists, and also those who are attending this session. As rightly said, in fact, I come with some hands-on experience post-pandemic. And I would, when I'm sharing my thoughts, what I will do is that quickly I will talk upon the challenges which any manufacturing industry is facing in the initial stage, and what I think these are my views of what will happen in the short term, medium term, and probably in the long term, and what will be the driving factors for it. So that's what I will try to cover. To start with, unlike many other industries, we also heard that maybe learning is happening online, and there are a lot of things, quite a few people are able to work from home. But unfortunately, this flexibility is not available in manufacturing. So manufacturing cannot work from home. By and large, manufacturing has to happen inside the factory. And what has happened is this particular activity, although there was some continuity in many other sections, but in manufacturing, there was an absolutely blackout when this lockdown took place. Yeah, so this came as a rude shock, and everybody had to really relook into everything which was happening at that point of time, but it was the first blow. What happened is, based on the demography or the location where the industries are placed, over the period of time, things started operating, means people started resuming the operation, and all those who could resume the operation, they actually got 3 blows at a time. Yeah. And what are those 3 blows? The first one is availability of manpower, uncertainty. So there was absolutely uncertainty in the manpower availability. There was uncertainty in the material availability. And then the third one was a totally new normal of social distancing and sanitization. Believe me, having gone through this exercise quite painfully, I can clearly see this has changed the complete world for me. Being in a manufacturing for almost now 25 years, the things are looking absolutely different and far more challenging than what in any area which I had been through. Yeah. So this is something. These are the 3 major things which happened, and when you get all these 3 blows at a time, that's where you start preparing your some quick actions, some short-term actions. And what has happened, and I think this is something which just not my industry, but quite a few industries will have to either they have done it or they will have to do the same thing. The first topic is to engage with your employees far better way than what maybe you were doing in the past. Give them comfort, improve their morale, give them confidence that coming to factory is quite safe and they will be taken care of over here. Yeah. So this is something which is which was the one of the biggest challenge, I would say, when you are resuming the operation. Yeah. So this was from the manpower availability point of view. And once you start taking care of that, then comes the another thing is you have to also engage with your suppliers far better way, be their partners, understand their challenges, and try to ensure that they are sufficiently motivated to resume the operations and also start delivering the goods the way you want it. And I can clearly understand what Dr. Sina was also mentioning some time back. Here everything has to be aligned in a better way, so that your customer demands you are able to understand, and you are able to also share the same priority to your supply chain and ensure that there is no bullwhip effect or there is no disruption in the supply chain, and you are not handling it uh, in a wrong way, but you have to really handle it in a very very matured way so that they are able to deliver with those limited capacities exactly what you want. But I also see that in this short term there will be a tendency, because of the uncertainty of the availability of goods, a tendency would be to increase your assets or inventory in terms of the raw material or even in the finished goods. This would be the tendency to overcome this uncertainty of material. Yeah. And the third thing, when it comes to the social distancing, I always take pride for working in the industry where I am for a long time, like many of you, where we have a fairly good layouts, and we really don't have very cramped workplaces. So this is not maybe which is available in many industries. However, having said that, it was also a rude shock for us that how do we maintain social distance, because the area which gets exposed is like your change room, your washrooms, a canteen. And this is something where suddenly there was a big challenge to ensure that we are able to manage the social distancing over there. And how industries or rather what we are trying to do is that how we can come up with a more staggered working. What I can clearly see is that the organizations which were working maybe in one shift, they tried to move to 2 shifts, and the 2 shift people moved to 3 shifts, and 3 shifts started working in a more staggered way, and only to ensure that there are not many head counts at a given point of time, but you are able to still manage those things in a better way. So having said that, these 3 actions which came out as a more natural reaction to the scenario. And however, the realization out of these 3 actions is clearly that your operational cost has gone up. Yeah. So with the increase in the operational cost, and there is also a demand that every customer is trying to ensure that his input cost goes down, which means your customers are not going to pay for this increasing the operational cost, which means this is not a sustainable thing for a long time. Yeah. So when you are in the short term actions are good enough right now to somehow to start the operations and at least have something to move. However, it will not be a sustainable thing for a long time because of the financial parameters which I talked about. Having said that, what I feel the things would shape up in the coming times. Here there is a clear topic of the fittest will survive. And from my point of view, the definition of fittest is not purely in terms of the financial fitness, which generally we tend to look at. Here, the fitness would be related to two different or other two parameters, which I would like to share with my own experience. How quickly an organization is able to come back to its same productivity level pre-COVID time. Yeah. So to what extent you can come, so the extent to which you can come to the pre-COVID level and the time which it will take to come to that level. So extent and time, these are the two factors which will be very crucial, which will shape up the future of the industries in coming days, and those will define the medium term actions and also the long term actions. So what I clearly see coming up in the as a next wave or in the medium term action is how you can have more per person rather than having more person. And this is a more per person can happen only if you are really ensuring that you're following that lean principles, and also you are looking into the low cost automation. Low cost automation would be a real focus area because you would like to see your dependency on manpower is coming down to a large extent, and also the skill sets. So there will be a big focus on multi-scaling, rescaling, upscaling, and whatever you call it, but the skills would be really a big challenge in the coming time, and there would be also tendency of maybe a short-term hiring. This is something which I clearly see coming up in the medium term. And of course there will be a lot of innovation in the way manufacturing is happening today, and those innovation would be supporting the social distancing in the available resources. Yeah. So that is something which I clearly see coming up in the medium term. Most of the organizations have already started working on it, and when I look into the long term, again it will be dependent on the extent or the fitness factors which I talked about. So those will decide the long term actions. And here I also feel in a longer run, many industries would really relook into their strategies for future. I really don't know whether people, industrialists would like to have a big industry in one location, or they would like to have distribute it in small pockets and go more interior rather than working in metros or the big cities. Yeah, this would be change in the behavior in the coming time. But again, this would be also totally dependent on the factor, those fitness factors, which I believe would be the deciding thing for me. So this is something which I can share with my own experience, what happened in last couple of months since I resumed the operation, and the challenges what uh, through which we have gone through. Yeah. And also how I see the industry shaping up in coming times. So those were my views, sir.
Yogi, thank you very much, Mr. Mahendra. Of course, I couldn't tell you, and he has 25 years experience in the manufacturing and electronic field, and he's done a lot of simple innovations to improve the productivity of his manufacturing facilities, and he has gone for automation concept as well. So thank you, Mr. Mahendra, and you gave few points which are very important, and we will summarize at the end. Now is the time to Dr. Harris Pan, the country head, India, Resource Consulting. Dr. Pan brings 30 years of global and Indian senior executive experience with the rare combination of multi-sectors spanning aerospace and defense, automation, steel, engineering, plastics, lightweight, and composite. This is it's a series of list. He is a contemporary thought leader, and he's talking about blockchain, AI, and IoT for the industry era 4.0. and has worked with top multinational and corporate houses to lead and turn around in various capacities. These include the industries, aeronautics, and some motor company, General Motors, a lot of companies, and he has a lot of experience in the field of supply chain management, has given leadership to many core areas of expertise. So now is the time to Dr. Harris Pan. We would like to know your thoughts on this.
Hi, good morning to all of you, all the panelists and the participants for this program. We know that if any person who is involved with the change management or transformation, he would not have asked for any bigger challenge in this. It is the most challenging, scenario for any transformation guy or any senior executive all over the world. Even presidents and prime ministers, they are struggling to fulfill their responsibility in this change scenario. So nothing has changed and everything has changed. This invisible virus has sucked up by one estimate $20 trillion of economy only because of oil consumption being pretty low. So we see the invisible and invisible paradox which are affecting lives and livelihood alike. So there are macro factors in play and there are micro factors in play, and there are confusing signals happening all over the world. And we see that there are $1.5 trillion valuation companies like of America and Apple's. And we also see that company by hundreds closing and filing for bankruptcies. We also see huge expansion and closures throughout. So this made me, ponder what is a real factor behind all this. If we have to pinpoint the one thing which has impacted the most is it's a question of lives and before livelihood. Previous to this pandemic, everybody was focused on livelihood. People moved around the world, around the states, around the cities for the want of better opportunities. And once the pandemic has hit, now suddenly we have come live to our lives. So here, what we have seen is that what has most impacted is the trust and accountability. We have seen that at a global level. If this pandemic was informed much before it spread all over the world, the whole world response would have been different. So we see that institutions, societies, corporates have been found wanting in terms of playing out in terms of trust and accountability. And of course, increase of cost of sanitization and safety has made a lot of businesses non-profitable because of lower volume and scale. Suddenly we realize that health has become entirely our responsibility. Even the states, even the governments, NGOs, they can do a little. So again, this piece of taking care of ourselves is entirely on individuals. We see, so these are the invisible part of pandemic, and then there are visible part. There is a cascading effect on economy due to lockdown and social distancing, lower demand, and employment under threat worldwide. We see advantages of low-cost contract labor suddenly becoming a nightmare, and we see also huge migration taking place from cities to the villages, which is creating labor shortages. How do we create value? That is changing. The work is not same. Command and control, which has been hallmark for any manufacturing, that we see is suddenly competing with other products and services, particularly IT and ITS, where they work from anywhere. Over dependency on the world supply chain driven by low cost that is also becoming a big issue. We have seen thousands of miles parts are being shipped from one end of the world to another part of the world, just because the parts happens to be cheap. And that has also resulted in huge dependency on few countries who can make it for the world. Incremental shift will not fill order books, and it cannot pump up the profitability. Now the question comes, how do we survive and thrive? This is not an incremental change or a small or a transformational story which we have been hearing, or some software change, tools and tackles, and you do it and you will come back to the normal post-COVID world. It's not going to happen because of the trillions of dollars, economy shifting this way and that way. It will have a detrimental impact throughout the post-COVID world as well. So in this, I will say that there is an invisible aspect of it. The first and foremost comes build trust and accountability. In particularly Indian scenario, where as we call in Hindi, most of the people work on mauke ka fayda, or taking advantage of a situation, which in a sense that work in a very selfish mode, and don't work for a bigger cause and bigger impact. So that is not going to work. So if you want to build up trust and accountability for the post-COVID world, it means that we have to do a dramatic change in terms of our attitude. As one of the panelists said, agility and ambidextrousness means having multi-skilling. So these three are very, very important aspects for manufacturing, and this will result into self-management, work without boss, entrepreneurial way of working. These three things are very, very important. Even if you see the purchase order, if you compare how the purchase order is being made in India versus anywhere in the world, you will find a simple clerk makes a purchase order and issues. Whereas you will find in India, very senior level people signing purchase order is not an exception. So if you see in the manufacturing setup also, a lot of changes are possible, but because of our hierarchical, patriarchal command and control, we have not been able to come out. Now, in terms of visible actions, I propose 5 points. The first being collaborate for comparative advantages. Comparative advantages means share resources. We find in India a lot of MSMEs where a lot of small players are there who do not have economies of scale, the skill, the talent needed. Marketing is not that strong, so they work with a lot of handicaps. It is very, very important that if you want to compete at the world level, it is very important that we come out of this ownership concept, that we will own the talent, we will own the shop floor. Everything should be owned for better control. That is not going to work. We have to learn to share resources for marketing, supply chain, research and development, and even talent management. So most of those critical areas which we think were important in the pre-COVID era, now we have to start working in a co-sharing arrangement. Second is build competitive advantage. How we can build it? Business process digitization, which will encompass going for IoT, application of RPA, AI, machine learning, and so on and so forth. Second part is the automation, and we should also look for low-cost innovation. So these three things will fundamentally change how we work in manufacturing setup. Third point is enhance capability and capacity to A, grab market share from competitors, and B, expand your market to adjacent products and services. When I say market share from competitors, means in the post-COVID world, we are going to see, to my guess, depending upon various domains and verticals, 30% to 50% companies getting closed. So when the demand picks up, whoever will be left over, he will have advantage over getting the market share. So as a few of the competitors close down because of various issues, the ones who are agile, they will be able to grab that market share. And of course, if you are into, say, automotive and you have certain skills, you see that automotive is not doing very well, then you have to immediately switch over to aerospace and defense, or even space. But that requires a different set of capabilities, capacities, and huge changes in the way you work. But that can be managed. Fourth point is repivot and reposition your business. Unless or until you do, you will become a part of a platform economy where you have to manufacture parts in millions and billions with a very low profit margin. If you don't want to be that, then you have to repivot and reposition your business where you create more value than you have been creating in the past. So it means that value creation will shoot to a next level of level of excellence and performance. The fifth part is grab opportunities emanating from the global shift and China decoupling. As we know that most of the countries, they want to decouple their economy from China. They have been benefited by huge sourcing from China, but also there have been associated risks in supply chain that people have realized, and because of the geopolitical and other security regions and all, not many companies want to come out. And India being as big country as China, though 1/3 of the economy, it has a huge chance to expand the business. So these are the few points I wanted to highlight. And a few of the sectors which are growing where manufacturing can focus is aerospace and defense. It says only yesterday, Prime Minister has declared that in space will be an entity, and the government is going to invite, and rather ISRO is going to help private companies coming in a big way in space. Healthcare and medical equipment, that is another area. Agriculture technology, India has highest percentage of agricultural land in the world, but it's a pity that we don't use technology there. So it's a high time that Indian manufacturing also focuses on doing some worthwhile contribution in our agriculture sector. So with this note, I will close here, and we can take Q&A later.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Harispan, and you highlighted a few facts which are very important for all of us, and we will come back on to those summaries later. And now is the time for Mr. Ajay Agrawal, and Assistant Vice President, Operation Nilkamal. And he has a lot of experience in the field of strategic planning, business planning, and complete factory operations, supply chain, purchase, quality, and all aspects of it. And he is having experience in the field of Lean Six Sigma, which is my experience as well. And he's currently working as a Assistant Vice President Operation in Nilkamal Limited, and heading the entire operations of 6 plants. I think he has a lot of points for all of us to know, and how he really managed his operations in his own area. Thank you. So I would like to invite Mr. Ajay Agrawal to have his whole thoughts on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kulsurya. Very good morning to all the panelists and all the viewers and attendees. And also I welcome all my friends from Sri Lanka, because you know this conference was originally scheduled to be in Sri Lanka, Colombo. Okay. Yes. But due to COVID, we are now meeting online. So that's like you get moon in disguise.
You'll have it in near future. Right. You'll be able to have it near future.
Great.
In Colombo.
So as like various other panelists have mentioned, this was a tough time. Okay, and this is continued to be a tough time for manufacturing. And Dr. Kulashuriya mentioned that it is 18% of the GDP is manufacturing. So it's very important, okay, that we all understand we are going through a tough time. But as you know, the carbon also under the hard conditions also get converted into diamond. So that's the time we should look into that in a positive way. It's a tough time, but we should look all the positivity, what we can think of out of for manufacturing in this time, because the topic is for the manufacturing. So I would like to share like what we have done in our manufacturing operations, what we are doing, what we are continuing to do that, and take this time as a internal assessment. Like it's a time where like you got suddenly a jerk, a break, all of your activities got stopped. So rather than getting disturbed, it's a time where we do a lot of internal assessment and understand, okay, and look back, which we were not able to do in our day-to-day activities. What were the things which were going wrong, and we consider that as a normal. And now we are talking about a new normal. So let's look at everything which we consider as normal earlier. Okay, we said we require so many people, we have so many processes, we have so many materials or SKUs, everything which we consider it's a normal way of operations. So now we are saying if we have to work with a new normal. So the new normal is not only about the social distancing, not about only the sanitization. New normal is about everything we are doing in the factory, in the manufacturing. Look at that and see where now we can change and make it more time thing which is now relevant for this time and will be relevant in the future. This is the time, this 2020, and at least for the next 5 years, I see this is a time where this is a defining time for the manufacturing. The way now we will take a shape and we will convert ourselves, okay, our operations will we decide like how good and how fair we do in the future. So I'll come back what we have done in our system and we are continuously working on. We have touched about the very basic things on manufacturing, which people say is the 5M. Okay, the 5 M's are man, machine, material, method, and money. Okay, so I'll talk about each one of that, like how we have put focus and what we are doing on that. So I'll talk about man. So post-COVID, as Mr. Mahendra also mentioned, it was very difficult to get the people on coming back to the work. Okay, and it's not only the employees, it's their families also worried. So there's a lot of focus has come back on the like hygiene safety. Okay, and I think it need to be continuously taken care, where the confidence giving back to the employees and their family members that we are having a safe place where all the precautions are being taken care in the manufacturing is very important. The other thing is we need to understand, we need to continuously maintain this hygiene factor in the factory and in the work environment, because if any one case comes or a series of cases come in our factory or in manufacturing setup, it can lead to the stoppage of the factory. It could be very destructive. So we can't take it lightly. It has to be taken every day very seriously, and all these precautions, we have to remind our people, we have to take care of their safety. And so we get a continuity in our operations. The other important factor which we are doing in this time for people, for the man, is thinking about reskill, okay, doing a multi-skilling, because we have seen there are many people who were required to run and they were knowing a single operations. If they are not able to come to the work, the entire system is standstill, which is not good. So we need to have people in the system, we need to have a lot of clarity on and actually work on this multi-skilling and reskilling of people, and how so in any case, if somebody who is expert of any area and he gets a COVID or he's not able to come to the work, the operation continuity should not hamper, should not suffer. So it's a lot of focus on these. there's a lot of focus on reskilling and upskilling. So in that, what we have to do, basically, we have to create a flexible attitude among the people. So the flexibility need to be there. We need to give them a lot of understanding about the other operations and give them a total business understanding. They should not be now looking into only on their silo where they were working. They have to look into a holistic view. So that kind of trainings and continuous upgradation of people are required. We need to look at every role, every responsibility, every job description in detail. Okay. So what all activities are being done pre-COVID? Are they really required now? We are working from home, many of us. Okay. And we are seeing a lot of activities which were being done earlier. Now they are not at all relevant. So we need to define each and every role. We need to club things. We need to optimize the system, because Mr. Mahendra also mentioned, now operational costs have gone higher. Okay. And the customer is not going to pay for this high cost. So the system has to optimize, the manufacturing has to optimize. So we need to look at optimization of cost by seeing what all non-value added activities were being done by the people, which can be now automated. Now system can generate, software can generate. We talk about smart manufacturing, IoT platforms, a lot of things can be done through that. So it's a very high time we should look into that. So after talking about man, I will say in the machine, it is very important. Dr. Sina also mentioned that agility at the shop floor. So based on the customer demand, now our systems are flexible. If not, we are keep on converting that into able to take a smaller batches. Okay, the system is become agile, flexible. We are able to run smaller batches as per the customer requirement, and the machines are like working with the high reliability, because you are not now no more getting very easily this AMC support, and the service engineers are not able to visit. There are issues of spare parts availability. So you need to have a very good high reliable maintenance system, okay, in place, so we don't face any abrupt issue of machine failures. So which is very important. These machines, we have to look into a lot of low-cost automation system, so we can increase the efficiencies of the system, entire system, rather than we keep on investing in a linear way, the way it was going on earlier. So it's a time to relook into everything. What was normal earlier, we have to relook and see what could be the new normal for that. So in the machine, I will also say it is a time we should talk about these machines are connected and we get information out of this machine rather than just recording the data. It should be in an analytic way. So the data are useful for the managers to take the decision on that. Okay, so they can quickly take the decision rather than collecting the data and then doing a postmortem of analyzing this data late after a week or after a month. It's a time we should understand what is going on and take online decision. So that's very important, which I think we are doing in, I believe that in the manufacturing we should do on the machine part. The third important thing of manufacturing is material. So in the material now, it's a time to relook of your every SKU, stock keeping unit of your every raw material or your finished good. Why you need so many SKUs? Here I've seen people were keep on creating a lot of SKUs. They found that these are required. Like I've seen in our chairs, we were having 6 kind of pipes required going for the 6 models, and now we have reworked and we could reduce that to only 2. So a lot of working process inventory, a lot of different kind of raw materials you can reduce by this, by understanding and rethinking on that. Why you need so many stock keeping units, SKUs, and so many of variety of raw materials or semi-finished good or finished goods in the system. This is not now old way we can run. We have to talk about the new normal there also. Then it is very important in the material that we relook at the entire supply chain part of that. Okay, because we have seen there's a disruption happening at our supplier end. Imports are having an issue. Okay, the dependency on a lot of imported components, local components, they were all you can have multiple issues because of this COVID. You don't know whether which area is going into containment zone and becoming a red area all of a sudden, and you don't get a supply next week from there. So what is the really alternate suppliers for every material we have? What is our plan B for the materials ability? We can't give this excuse to our customer that we are not able to produce on time and because we don't have a supply chain available with us. You will lose your market. You will lose your customer. Customers are not going to wait. So in the material, it is very important that we relook into our supply chain. We are doing a lot of parts which we can be done locally now. Locally, what we are doing is we have a multiple suppliers or a supplier B, and if we have to do it at multiple locations. So not looking into a small freight cost or element, okay, small part, and looking into a silo thinking where purchase just think about his own KPIs, KRAs, and looking into only a cost factor of that. It is now looking to an overall supply chain. And Mr. Sinha also keep on talking about advocating about these principles, which are very relevant in today's time, that every part of this should be looked into a whole. Now, on the fourth part, method, I will not talk much. I know like, a lot of people are doing lean and lean manufacturing. But Mr. Kullas area also mentioned, and now it's the time to actually redo and look into that lean. Are we at the basics of lean principle, or we are just doing it for the paperwork and just doing for eye wash and telling people that we are having a lean manufacturing setup? It's a time actually, if you want to focus on methods, then relook each and every activities and see if that value-added activity from a customer point of view. Then only it will help us and we will be able to get to a new normal in the method. In terms of money, fifth M of the manufacturing, it is very important that we now are seeing a lot of focus, okay, after the post-COVID, which is on the cash flow. So you need to work on the inventory levels, okay. Keep it more, multiple batches are coming, whether like we are more comfortable in getting buying a 30 days inventories or 50 days of inventory at one shot. So more and more of, again, the lead will come here where people will have to think about just in time, or if they can't do just in time, at least a week or 3 days or 5 days, whatever level the best they can go, they should look into that, improving on that. The cash flow is very important here. We can't be sitting on the same inventory level and running the same volume or lesser volume now. It will not work for the companies. So that's a very big area where manufacturing companies can reduce their operating costs and free their working capital, reduce their bank interest on that by doing that. And this we have to make everybody understand in the system. So again, I'll come back like it is important that we connect all these dots of 5M, we go back to the basic and talk about a new normal everywhere there. And with all this, we should come out very innovative, agile products in this scenario. That is what I really look into manufacturing post-COVID. I think that's the, like what Savani said, it's a shock. Yeah, it's a shock, but it's a time to shake ourselves and remove all the extra layers which we have put it on ourselves and our system, and stop thinking everything what we are doing was normal. Now everything has to relook. So this is the time. This is the time we have to change ourselves. So that's all I want to add on this.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ajay Agrawal. And those are the 4 presentations we have scheduled today. And just I would like to summarize what you have learned from these presentations, and then of course we can go for question and answer session from the audience, as well as I have a few questions and from the panel, and then of course you can give your thoughts on those areas as well. Now, of course, we started with the Dr. Rakesh Sinha, and he discussed about we need to focus on customer demand and needs. And it's very important, the empathy. That's the point that I got this. And we need to look at the point of view of customer demand and needs, and to be agile our operations accordingly. And then he also talked about, other panelists also discussed about the flexibility in production line. And that's a very important point that in all operations, it's very important that we need to produce according to the requirements of customers. And fast response rate, which is, I think in COVID-19, we experience it. And with all these difficulties and our operations, and most of the operations, even in supply chain, in our country also, of course, in the vegetable supply and all aspects. And we have seen in different ways, reverse thinking. And we were at home and people would start bringing them to our places. And it's a different kind of things in now. There are lots of things to learn from these operations for our future new normal. And then, of course, Mr. Mahindra, he discussed about with his experience in the factory operations. And he mentioned it's very important point that the attitude of people and how to engage ourselves with our employees, which is a very important point. And we ourselves also experienced here in the field of higher education also, and we wanted to work and we were on online operations, and we made use of our technology to teach our students. And then of course we need to make sure that they are in a different conditions, and we need to work with our employees and make sure that they are really happy with the new operations, which is really tough. And as you said, if you want to see that your business is really operating, we need to get them engaged, and we need to talk to them and make sure that they are really with us in order to get the output, right output at the end. So what he mentioned is how fitness of an operation is how quickly we can come back and to the pre-COVID level of operations. That's the question that we need to ask from us, and we need to go for low-cost automations. So that's very important. My personal thinking is that when you look at all the big companies in the world today and all these medium and small companies, you can see, and all the big companies, and they started cut down salaries and all aspect of it. Is it just because of a virus? If we can, if we can't survive, and if you can't survive at least for 6 months and looked after our employees, what is the purpose of doing this business? That's the question we need to answer. I would like to ask that from our panelists. So is it, what is the sustainability of our businesses, which is very important that we need to think about, because it's just by cutting salaries, cutting operations and all that won't help us to survive in the business. We should be able to cope up with this type of even in future we would be able to cope up with these situations and maintain our at least basic level of requirements of people, without which you can't have a big business. Now most of the say now even in the USA you can see now 25 million, more than 25 millions loss of jobs and all that. So how you are going to within 3 months of time, and if you are losing the whole thing, what is the purpose of doing this business? So that is one question we need to ask from ourselves. And then of course Dr. Harris Fan, he discussed about how to survive in the post-COVID-19. And what he said is building trust among people and accountability, and it's very important, and to build multitasking, and without which, as you know, all of us know that without having multitasking, it's very difficult for us to move forward. And we need to develop some entrepreneurial mindset among all of us. That is a key point that I've taken. So we need to inculcate this mindset in our employees as well as our customers, without which is very difficult. It should be a win-win relationship in a difficult situation like this. So how you're going to make use of these situations to build up the awareness among all of us, all stakeholders of the business. And finally, Mr. Ajay Jagrawal, he mentioned few points, and what he said is we need to look at the whole operations, and he discussed all the points based on the 5M. And what I have taken is how to optimize all operations, as customers are not willing to pay for inefficiencies of all us. In COVID-19, what I have noticed is our organizations are overmanaged, and we have lots of hierarchies, and we have a lot of inefficiencies in most of the operations. Most of the operations we have seen. And if you looked at in our case also, and we saved more than 10-15 million a month, but we managed the whole business as well at NIBM. And we work with 25% of the people, but with the same experience for our customers. But of course, now they are willing to come back and do in-house training, in-house learning, especially young guys. They would like to go for networking and all that. But if you looked at the COVID-19 for NIBM, and it was a great success, and we have managed all the operations. And I think there's no impact at all for us up to now. I don't know how it goes, but now we need to start immediately, and we need to bring in our students and work. But I have seen in some of the operations here, in especially the garment industries in Sri Lanka, it has affected. But I don't think that it's not like in India. Our market is very much limited. Our supply chain, of course, got affected. And some of the materials also coming from other countries. And we had to stop productions, not because of our problems, but because of the supply chain issues. So, and he mentions flexibility and reliability of production line, which is the lean thinking that we need to get. And I would like to work this point also, because we can discuss this. The data is very important to manage. As you know, data is the basic knowledge, basic unit of knowledge. It is very important to manage all the businesses today. It is that's the reason as why data science, AI, all these are coming up. So if you don't make use of data to manage, especially in a period like this, and even during the COVID, and if you don't have data, it's very difficult to track, because we are not meeting each other, and it is data that made us visible. So that's very important. So that makes the real knowledge. So finally he mentioned this lean attitude, which is we need to inculcate the lean attitude in the minds of all of us, and the government, industries, people of industries, and the customers. So all should know each other, and why it is important that we need to get highest possible output from the lowest possible resources. So those are the points that we discuss. I hope that our the audience got the basic input from our panelists. Now is the time to question. My number one, of course, I wanted to have a few questions. Other questions. Why we couldn't survive for a period of 3 months or 4 months while looking after our employees? I'm asking from all panelists, and we can have 1 or 2 minutes and discuss why we couldn't maintain our industries just because of a virus, and we couldn't look after our employees also as expected by them. So that's the negative points that you have seen during the that's the negative point that I have seen from the COVID-19. So you can just have 1 or 2 without taking much time. You just tell us what is the reason.
Yeah, as per my view, resilience of any business requires whether the companies have right change quotient and whether they have adversity quotient inbuilt in their way of working. We find that if the companies are working for 10% and 8% of profitability, the moment a small change happens in the ecosystem, their whole structure and system starts getting faltering. And this pandemic was all of a sudden too much for them. Anybody who has been associated with the change management, he will say that the mindset of the change, at times it is found wanting. And particularly this kind of a pandemic, situation requires a lot of flexibility, lot of transparency, lot of, it's a one generation of change must happen in a year's time. So it is not about incremental, something you change, re-engineering you will do, and all that is going to, fill the gap for a situation where 50% industries are going to get closed. Like in India, there are some 10 to 12 automotive manufacturers, and we know that post-COVID it will be very difficult for half of them to survive. So, and there are technology changes are also happening because of EV vehicle and all. So in this kind of a scenario, if you have not built the change quotient throughout your organization, led by the top leaders of the company, it is very difficult to survive. And the second is your adversity quotient. If the adversity happens, then how quickly you can, disintegrate the whole thing, reorganize the whole thing, and get set and going. So a lot of advantages, lot of pillars, lot of strengths which you used to have, suddenly you find that it is of no use, or they have relatively less importance. So resilience, responsibility is of course there. Accountability is of course, has to be led by the leaders of the organization. But the resilience for the long-term sustenance, it is a different, track. And now organizations have to become comfortable taking this path.
Okay, thank you. Any other views on this?
Yeah, just one comment from my side, if I have understood your question correctly, that why many organizations couldn't take care of the employees during this pandemic, even for a few months. Yeah, I would like to, with my sense, I can, yeah, if I look into multiple industries around, I can clearly make a sense that industries who are having a really long-term view, these industries have definitely taken care of their employees to the best possible extent. So that is something where you can clearly separate out. It is not only the financial ability of those industries, but also the industries who are having a long-term view of past as well as of future, and those are the industries who could really handle the situation in a different way. So that's something which at least, and if those who have not taken care of, you can clearly see a short-term mindset coming up over there. And also they are not able to see the future coming up in a better way. So they are really trying to conserve whatever they are having. So that's something which at least my sense is on this topic. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have one more questions. And you can see now is the new generation and Generation C like. And they are not looking at the big brands. What would be the future of big brands in manufacturing field? Any views on this?
Yeah. Okay, I would like to say a few words on this question. So I see like this is the time where most probably big brands will get further advantage. Okay. Because in this, efficiencies are very important in this time to get the cost competitiveness. And because of the economy of scale, okay, they will be able to get it much better because of the ability of the capital and cash flow. They will have an advantage over the small companies. But at the same time, the large companies, the big brands have a problem in terms of their long hierarchical infrastructures, and a lot of these webs have been created in the system, okay, which are like not allowing the large brands to perform to its full level with that kind of infrastructure system and process in place. So definitely large brands will have an advantage because of this cash flow and optimization economy of scale. But at the same time, only those large brands who are able to now work in a very optimized way, who are able to change their entire organizational structure and make it lean and come out from that normal hierarchical things.
Yeah, my view on this is that we see that telecommunication is going for a massive change, where SoftBank is planning to launch 30,000 satellites all over the globe. So very soon, in 2-3 years' time, we'll have a satellite-based internet and telephone services available to anywhere, to any person in the world. And even today, they can provide because they have launched 480 odd satellites already. So we also see that one example of digital impacting every aspect of our life is Reliance already has 10,000 geo platform, already has 10,000 blockchain nodes already available throughout India. So with this kind of a change happening, where blockchain, AI, AR and machine learning and so on and so forth, we are going to see that the whole country and the whole world will operate like it's having nodes of telecommunications, nodes of companies, manufacturing, nodes of warehousing, and all getting crisscross integrated. So anything which is a third party, anything which is low value add, anything which is hierarchical kind of a thing, and anything which from end to end is not full of value density and value velocity, it will get simply swept out. So my sense of technology is that we will be living in a very different world when it comes 2025. And India is well placed in that, provided we are able to channelize our resources and we are able to engage our talent. We are already doing 55% of IT services for the whole world. So if we want to shift gears, it should be very much possible for India to become top 3 economy in the world. And we are very much placed.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give a chance for audience to, I think we have, nearly 15 attendees, and they can ask questions from the panelists. And we have, Sri Lankans and in Pakistan and so let's ask a few questions from the panelists and request audience to ask questions. Yes, you can unmute your mic and ask questions. If you have anything.
Yeah, let me. I'm Felix Fernando. I'm not going to ask a question. I'm just going to make a my view on that. You are talking about. I think Dr. Kurukula Surya was making a comment on this. Why these companies were abandoning workers for 6 months or whatever. I think some panelists was giving a reasonable answer as well, but there is also the supply chain. If you look at, because I'm coming from apparel background, I think I'm trying to get this camera on. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Williams.
Yes. Yeah. So what we see is that if the whole supply chain, because we are just one link. See, what we see is our view is of course, there were some few people that we were looking at very short term, and there are few people in any industry, anywhere, that they are very short-sighted people, probably maybe about 10%, 5%, maybe there is a group of people, but majority, maybe say we are looking at our initial buyers. Okay, say we have to abandon because maybe initially they cancel the orders. Then we are blaming them. They are canceling the orders. They don't pay us, all sort of things. But when we go to them, they say they are supermarkets, so they are whatever, they are retail outlets or whatever. They don't. So it's a huge chain. So I think it's very really unavoidable. And what I see is that is no one expected. I think no one has experienced this disease or pandemic like this nature in our whole this century or whatever. I think probably no one to be blamed. Whatever the business plans, I don't think anyone has made any provisions for this kind of a thing. This I just a comment as only.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Felix Fernando. So you're thinking, yes, you said this.
I am Nirmalanti, working for a pharmaceutical company. So I also agreed with the comment that Mr. Kurukula just gave, because it's the impact vary industry to industry. So though we have a very good, very steady platform, it vary industry to industry. Now, pharmaceutical industry, somehow we actually managed to keep our casual people also, and we the critical period, the people who came for work for the casual also we gave extra. So, but the apparel industry, the story is totally different. So I think the impact is very industry to industry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other views or questions you can ask?
Yes, I also have comments on this. First of all, I would like to thanks all the panelists for their good presentation. Still, it is very difficult that what would be the exact situation post COVID. Despite of that, in fact, if we look, the human resource is the main asset in any organization. And the one panelist was saying that we should have the positivity, and I also second him. If we look into the exact situation and put ourselves into the shoes of those who are being spared from the companies, then we will see that what would be the situation for those who are jobless. So we all should, those who are working at the top positions, they should realize that we should consider our employees with empathy, and the difficult time is there, but these people will come out of this difficult situation. So try to maintain the jobs, and also maybe we after some time we may consider to reduce the salaries instead of sparing people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, your views on this. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah. So I'm Sashika.
Yes,
so actually, most of this time, actually, most of the business people, they try to just be in the business, actually, not break the break-even point. So how practical is it to do automation in the industry? Because right now, people are talking about to minimize the fixed cost, especially. Variable cost, especially. So how practical is it to implement automation in the industries?
Our panelists can answer.
In my view, automation, in my view, for the heck of automation is not good. If you go for theory of constraint study, or if you take a lean manufacturing value proposition analysis, it will tell that which of the areas where improvement or automation is going to result into higher productivity. And so to that extent, again, there might be areas for automation. In that, again, where is the value for money? And again, engage all the talent in the organization to come out with the low cost automation or low cost solutions to those issues. And here the Kaizen means a small change, but not necessarily less impact. Small changes, but with a big impact. That is the Kaizen is all about. And if you engage the relevant mentors and experts in their field, they can also facilitate this process. And you can find that at times it is no cost, at times it's a very less cost, because of which you can achieve higher value addition in your manufacturing and supply chain.
Yeah, can I add something to that question?
Yes,
I think there are two parts, because if it brings some value addition, definitely you should go in for that. But I think a lot of industrialists, a lot of businesses are facing the cash flow issues as well. That's where I think we need to, from the particular respective governments or the central banks, we need certain policies to encourage the businesses to go in one particular policy, like maybe they need to bring up certain policies to automate, certain reliefs, certain budget reliefs, or certain policies actually to encourage this kind of R&D or like automation. I'm not sure whether maybe if there is a budget comes this after the elections or whatever. So I think we need to push for these kind of reforms, especially at this moment, to include certain encouragements. I mean, to encourage the industrialists. This is one thing. That's a comment only. I do have a question also for the panelists. Now we are also talking about this automation, like maybe work from home, a lot of things like maybe, yes, work from home, lean. Yeah, people are afraid. Now, supposing if there is a cure, if there is some vaccination comes maybe in about 6 months, 1 year, so this becomes normal. Do you think people, sorry, it's maybe a difficult question, do you think people will forget everything and go back to old days again?
New normal is also normal.
Yes.
Yes,
Will
it's
this
up to the
continue?
panelists to ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your question?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yeah. Okay.
No,
now we are.
If I'm to
actually,
summarize,
yeah.
what Mr. Felix says is, now once this is after COVID, it's a post-COVID, and this will treat again, we will become a normal situation. Now I think here in Sri Lanka also we are becoming to a normal situation. Now we are forgetting some of the health practices as well. So what would be the situation? People will go back to the normal situation, and it's not a new normal, but it's the real normal we had in the past. That's the question he's asking. What would be the solution for this?
Especially when it comes to the business, like maybe we are just we're talking about automation, work from home, like to be lean, to get the more productivity, to be work smart, all these things. Will people forget, once the vaccination comes?
My personal point of view, Mr. Felix, is definitely they will forget so long as the leaders are not really committed to this. And it's up to us. Leaders should make it a point that we should continue some of the operations. As Sasika said, Sasika says about automation. Automation is not. I don't think that this COVID. Media created all these things hypes in the society, so that we got afraid ourselves to the virus. That was the number one question. My personal thinking. Now the same situation is here in Sri Lanka, but still now we have basically got used to it. So therefore now we started working in the industries as well as our normal operation. We started quickly. It's not because of the problem is over, but because of our mindset. So we created the mindset that this virus is a real killer and everything is over. So we got panic. And I can see that our students also got panicked totally, and they thought that they don't have a future. But we, with all the difficulties, with the support of our consultants, we made sure, and we did a lot of counseling at the beginning to see that this is a normal. This is normal virus. We get virus, common cold is a normal thing. That if you get the common cold, it goes to the whole at home. This is spreading. But of course, this COVID-19 helped us to develop some measures, health and safety measures. Even now we are practicing as a research. We see some of the hospitals are empty here in Sri Lanka. Because of our mindset, we just visiting hospital, getting those things, but we didn't practice the basics. Cleaning is a basic habit. And in manufacturing industries, we are talking about these 5 S's. So we don't practice those things. As a result, we get viruses. And we need to, big thing is here is the distance. It's physical distance. That's the emotionally it's really affecting us. And we want to, network ourselves, work together and all that. All that are normal. So I think we should, I don't know whether panelists agree that we just pass the message that we should go for automation to remove the inefficiencies of the operation, not because of the COVID.
I would
exactly.
Could do that.
Yeah.
Whether it is normal or post-COVID or whatever it is, we should do that because we need to make sure that our operations are lean. We need to get the best possible output from our resources without thinking about anything else. So if you are well prepared, my thinking is you can look after your employees, not the top level, but at least to their basics and maintain at least for 6 months to all the employees without affecting their thinking. Now, if you reduce the salaries and cut down anything, what would happen is naturally they get totally disarray in their attitude, and finally they don't contribute to the development of our companies. So we as leaders in industries, we should be able to look after our people. That's the number one. If you don't look after people, so how are you going to do automation without having people? So we can divorce people from the machines and we go for automations, as I think Ajay knows that in lean thinking we call automation, divorce people from the machines. That's a good idea, but so long as there are inefficiencies, we need to get the real thinking and the creativity of people to get these businesses up. So any comments from the panelists? Now it's time to conclude, and if you have any other questions.
I would just like to add a few statements on Shashika's questions on this automation. Okay. As you have also said, basically, if we are doing automation, it could be various way of doing it. It could be a simple Kaizen, small improvements. It could be a low-cost automation, or it could be a large automation. You will get the money if you are very clear with your purpose, what benefit it is getting you after doing that. If it is just for the sake of automation, like something is right now manually being operated and we have automation, the system will operate. It will not. In this time, company management is not going to spend the money. It is like if you can show by doing this, whether you get a people productivity, you reduce your changeover time, and you will be able to do more batches. So you have to clearly show the benefits coming out of this proposal. That is very, very important. Otherwise, what happens most of the time, people does the automation and there's no clear benefit seen, tangible benefit seen in the system. So this is the time company will invest, but the benefit has to, who will not invest? If today you are coming and saying, I will invest 5 lakh rupees and I can give a benefit of 8 to 10 lakh rupees, which management will not agree? You are talking for the profit of the company. It will definitely be approved, but it should be meaningful. It should be giving you the tangible benefits at the end. It could be small, as good as Kaizen, and as big as the large automation.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's high time for us to conclude the whole session. I would like to thank all the panelist members, Mr. Ajay Agrawal and Dr. Harish Pant and Dr. Rakesh Singh and Mahendra Wani. And thank you very much for your all inputs. I hope that the audience got the benefit out of this. And my final message from the whole thing that you have learned from you today is to make sure that your operation is lean and agile, so that you are really treating your customers properly. And you need to have fast response, especially a situation like this. And we have learned from the COVID-19. And now in future, we need to make sure that this fast response to our customers, their requirements should be done accordingly without thinking about anything else. And final, again, I would like to put the message that the virus is virus. We need to live with that. And we need to practice basic things and make sure our businesses are up and running. And we should look after our people who have contributed a lot to develop our industries. And we should not forget just because of virus. And we should challenge the virus and make sure this industry is moving as we need, because it is human beings that we need to decide whether this will run or not, but not the virus. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed, and I would like to thanks all the organizers and their support giving to making this effort success. Thank you very much. Have a great day.